And we welcome those of you who've been watching Dallas Baptist in Florida from Lubbock, Texas. Tom Hart alongside Kyle Peterson. This is a regional final from Athens, Georgia. Florida State needs a win to move on to the Super Regionals. Georgia needs a win to force a Game 7 tomorrow night. And the Seminoles, with a 2-run home run from Reese Albert in the first inning, continue their hot hitting, their 10th home run of the regional. Connor Grady is the pitcher for Florida State. L.J. Talley at the plate with 1 on and 2 out. Georgia earlier today blanked Florida Atlantic 13-0 on a 2-hit shutout from Tim Elliott. Setting the stage for this, a rematch of last night's FSU blowout. Late move from Smith at first. There to back him up is DeSatos. And FSU gets out of the first without allowing any damage. It's been a wild weekend run for this Florida State team. They're one of the last 4 teams allowed in the tournament as an at-large. They have proved their worth with timely pitching and sensational hitting. One is a legend and one's having a legendary weekend. Mike Martin, final go-round, 4th decade as a head coach of Florida State, trying to get his team back to Omaha, and he's been powered by an unlikely source. 9-hole hitter Tim Becker, former club player and a walk-on, has been clubbing the ball this weekend.
Tell you what, if Florida State gets through this regional, they're never going to forget this name. Tim Becker, who was not on this club until the fall, goes to an open tryout. Mike Martin Jr. calls him back and says, you know what, come hang out with us. And hardly played at all. They wanted more consistency in the lineup. I would say they've got it. 4 for 7 so far in this regional. 3 home runs. He's driven in 7. His best at bat may have been the single up the middle yesterday against Emerson Hancock that drove in 2 more runs. But for Becker, everything has been right so far this weekend.
Becker's due up 9th, 3rd this inning. Florida State out to an early lead. The ball has been flying out of this ballpark all weekend. More home runs hit here than any other regional. And Reese Albert went oppo.
Elevated fastball. Cole Wilcox, at fastball, has reached 100 miles an hour this year for the freshman. And that one, backspin to left. If it's backspin to left, it's got a chance to go into the parking lot because more have here in Athens than any other region.
On the season, a .268 team average and an on-base percentage under 400, but they have certainly turned it up now here in the 2nd season for FSU. A roller coaster up and down year for the Seminoles. They got a mercy rule win against NC State in the ACC tournament, and that may have been the win that put them in the big dance. Ander DeSatos, leadoff single. 2nd time the leadoff man has reached for Florida State. That brings junior Carter Smith to the plate. Smith hit a 3-run home run in the 5th inning in last night's 12-3 Florida State win against Georgia. And Wilcox starts him off with a breaking ball. It's an FSU team, no matter where you're hitting in the lineup, they don't seem to be bothered by velocity.
Sure weren't last night. So Cole Wilcox goes slider right here to get out ahead of Carter Smith 0-2.
Smith chased the changeup. It's the first strikeout of the game for Wilcox. 1 down.
We've talked about it already. I think off speed and off speed for a strike is going to make the fastball play up as this game goes on for Cole Wilcox. If Florida State can go sit fastball, that's when they got a chance to get to him, and that's how they have got to him so far. All 3 hits on the fastball. That time to strike out on an off speed pitch to Carter Smith.
So here's the folk hero, Tim Becker. Injured his senior year of high school, wasn't able to play. Got to Florida State and joined the club team. He was the captain and team president. And his walk-on tryout in the fall lasted all of about 25 minutes. A couple rounds in the cage, a few throws from the outfield, run a 60-yard dash. Pat on the back, thanks for coming. He was one of 8 that tried out that day. Told me yesterday there were no nerves. What did I have to lose? Either they call me back or they don't.
Well, now he knows what he had to gain, that's for sure.
3-0 to Becker. Georgia's first night starter Tony Losi not happy with the strike zone. That one right down Lumpkin, 3-1. Runner goes. Pitches reach for it. Strike 2. The throw down to second is in time. What a throw by Shane Marshall. Not their normal starter behind the plate, but he nails Nander de Cedas. Caught stealing for just the second time this season.
A 3-1 count. Mike Martin Jr. does take a chance right here. De Cedas off and running. It's a great one to throw for Shane Marshall. The outside part of the plate. Bullet to second base.
And that was key because it turns into a walk for Tim Becker. It's a second walk here early on from Cole Wilcox. What isn't working for Wilcox?
Well, all 3 hits on the fastball. The breaking ball when it's in the zone has been very, very good. You're also facing a really hot offense right now. And it's strike 1 is going to be so important as it goes today. And the ability to throw strike 1 was something that's other than a fastball for Wilcox.
Mike Salvatore singled his first time up. Came around to score on the Albert home run.
Wilcox's first pitch strikes to just half of the first 10 that he's faced so far today for Florida State. 1 turn through the order, 3 hits, 2 walks, 2-run home run.
To third, Shunk way behind the bag. Strong arm, beautiful throw. Shunk can hit, he can field, he can also pitch. He's the team's closer and the two-way star, showing off that strong arm to bring it into the FSU second. Seminoles up 2-0.
The NCAA Baseball Regionals is presented by Capital One. What's in your wallet? And in part by new Extra Refreshers Gum. Give extra, get extra.
Great crowds all weekend here at Foley Field in Athens, Georgia, both inside the park and outside the park. John Cable at the plate. You went and visited the guys in the greenhouse between games.
I did. I had to go thank them. Make sure they got their pizza. They got it. I don't know how much is left right now, but
with all due respect, they seem like the kind of guys who operate best without utensils.
no, they don't need to worry about that. I'm not sure that they want the health department rolling in there either, but that's what a college house is supposed to look like.
Full of a bunch of Fidelts. I'm told, by the way, that these guys are great students, and that many of them, if not all of them, that reside there are pre-med.
Really?
Yeah.
Doesn't shock me. They had a lot of ice. Wasn't sure why. It's just to stay cool.
This is the view that they have.
Look. There's my dudes.
Pulled behind the bag. Nice pickup by Smith, but then he dropped it. And Cable tried to dive into the bag to beat the throw, but Grady was there to cover.
That sound you hear is Chris Burke yelling from Louisville to say don't slide at first base. It's always going to take you a little bit of extra time. This time John Cable get down first. When the ball gets away from Carter Smith, obviously everything is in front of Cable. Doesn't field it cleanly, or on the transfer drops it. And then Cable lays out. Did that right hand get there? It didn't look like it did. Left hand was the first one to hit the bag, and it looked like the ball just beat him.
Carter Smith has had some footwork issues here early on in this game. Tripped his way around L.J. Talley's base hit, or pardon me, the put out on L.J. Talley in the first inning. Here's Cam Shepard. Some big hits for Shepard this season, again, including a walk-off against Texas A&M in the SEC tournament. And then Shepard was back at it earlier today. 3 hits, including a solo home run. He was a triple shy of the cycle. Shepard from Duluth, Georgia, SEC all-defensive team. This was the outing against Texas A&M. Georgia's bats were quiet all day on May 22nd, and then this. Very nearly brought back into the ballpark. Bulldogs a number 4 national seed. Shepard got underneath this one. 2 down.
Little slider there from Connor Grady, who's looked sharp so far. Tired 5 of the first 6 that he's seen. Only dog base run to reach base was a walk to Riley King in the first.
Grady pitched exclusively out of the bullpen last year for Florida State. Sophomore out of Tampa Catholic. He was their 2-time Cy Young Award winner, team MVP, male scholar athlete of the year. Facing Patrick Sullivan now. Sullivan had a scary moment earlier this season, was chasing a pop-up and ran into a pole in foul territory. He was concussed on the play and missed 13 games. Came back against their rivals from Georgia Tech. First plate appearance back, hit a home run against the Jackets. Played his high school ball for Marist in Atlanta. They've had some noteworthy alums. Turner's Ernie Johnson. Basketball's Matt Harpering. Sean McVay. Big leaguer Kyle Farmer. Bobby Jones.
Wow.
And David Hasselhoff. He would be
best for last.
Yeah, first face on their Mount Rushmore, wouldn't he? Full count to Sullivan. By the numbers, the best defensive first baseman to ever play in this program. They put the shift on against him with 2 strikes. And he sends this one out of play over the Florida State bullpen.
Florida State was playing pretty straight up until they got to 2 strikes. Now they're in a full shift. Nander DeSatis, the second baseman, pulled way into the 4-hole. Salvatore, the shortstop, on the second base side of the bag.
2-out walk. Second free pass issued by Grady. This is Shane Marshall. Marshall had a handful of starts in the middle of the conference season when his counterpart Mason Meadows fractured his orbital bone on a foul pitch. Meadows would return sooner than the doctors thought. And now today, Marshall getting his first start of the weekend. Comebacker handled by Grady, and the flip to first will close the Georgia second. 0 runs, a walk, and 1 left on. And coming up for Florida State, it'll be Albert, Mendoza, and Martin. Back to Foley Field, Athens, Georgia, and the NCAA Baseball Regionals presented by Capital One. This is called a bracket. It's what it looks like here in Athens this week. 3-seed Florida State, one of the final 4 teams into the tournament. Hammered Georgia 12-3 last night. Their offense has been sensational, including Reese Albert hit a 2-run home run in the first.
Mike Salvatore leadoff single. Reese Albert. You can go out and jog around the bases after that. Fastball out to left. The offense for Florida State just keeps on trucking this entire weekend.
That was their 10th home run. Now in their 3rd game of the weekend.
Guys in this lineup are homer. Salvatore, Albert, Mendoza, Flowers, Becker. Over half of your lineup has homered in the 3rd inning of Game 3 in this region.
And many of the casual Florida State fans just asked, who's Becker? He's homered 3 times.
Miss Carter Smith. He's gone deep too.
Interesting game in Baton Rouge right now. Southern Miss trying to come from behind on Arizona State, trailing by 3 in the bottom of the 9th, but the base is loaded. We've already seen 1 walk-off grand slam today. It was hit by Texas A&M. Eliminated West Virginia's season. Eliminated West Virginia into their season. Wilcox has already walked 3.
Well, the leadoff man for Florida State's now reached in the first 3 innings. So for Wilcox, hard to just get in any kind of a rhythm out there when you're going out of the stretch to the second hitter in every inning.
This is Drew Mendoza. Mendoza, first team all-conference performer in the ACC. Florida State's coaching staff under Mike Martin has always preached patience and on-base percentage. And Mendoza, following the instructions very well, came in top 5 in the country in walks. And leading the ACC in on-base percentage. Mendoza had a series against Pitt earlier this season where he went 8 for 10. He slugged 1,000. He reached base in 10 of 14 plate appearances. And for the first time in his career, the junior was named ACC Player of the Week. Against the shift, it goes off of Shunk. Headed to third is Albert. The throw to second is way wide. Nobody on the right side of the infield. Albert will score. Mendoza ends up at third, on a softly hit ball to the left side of the infield.
So the shift on with a base runner on first base, and Mendoza gets tied up. And now we've seen 2 ground balls to this side. If you're going to put the shift on, I like keeping my shortstop at the shortstop position. And I know that wasn't a normal shortstop position. That's a play that Aaron Chuck just doesn't have to make very often. Gets all the way up his glove, then a mistake in the outfield on the throw, and the Noles have 3 on the board already and have forced Scott Strickland to bring the infield in here with nobody out here in the 3rd.
Here's Robbie Martin at the plate now. Count 1-0. Tony Losey was a game 1 starter for Georgia, and we had a long talk with him day number 2 about pitching with the shift behind him. And he said, I hate it. I hate it because if I jam a guy and he comes up with a little squibber and he gets on base, it drives me crazy. So I know what the numbers suggest. I know in the end I may get more outs than hits I give up. But if you beat me on my best pitch and you square it up, tip of the cap. Talley handles this, and Mendoza can't move off of 3rd. Do you understand that line of thinking from Tony Losey from a pitching perspective?
I understand the line of thinking just from a competitive standpoint, but the reality is you forget the ones that work out well. You only remember the ones that don't work out well, and the reality is there's enough data on all of these guys at this point to where if it shows the ground balls in the infield are primarily going to the pull side, it does make sense to overload that side defensively.
Catcher Matthew Nelson, the freshman, drew a walk his first time up. In Baton Rouge, it's a 12-10 lead now for Arizona State. Bottom of the 9th, Southern Miss still with the bases loaded. Little dribbler to the left side. Pardon me, only plays at first from Shepard, who blindly fires across. RBI ground out for Nelson. 4-0 Florida State.
Smart play by Cam Shepard right there. I know the infield's drawn in, but that one tied up Nelson so much that if you're Florida State, this is what you wanted. If it's hit hard, you're forced to stay. But the catcher, the freshman Shane Marshall, you could see the right hand extended, yelling to Cam Shepard to throw that ball to first. There would not have been enough time, I don't think, even if the throw was perfect, to get Mendoza at home. So you get the ground ball, just not hit hard enough, and the Noles add 2 more here in the 3rd.
J.C. Flowers up. He's 0 for 1 of the ground out to short. Did you hear the Greenhouse was playing Dolly Parton 9-5 a moment ago?
Were they?
Oh, yeah.
You can't play that enough, boys.
How about if you're Cole Wilcox? You've jammed the guys who have put the ball in play this inning, yet thanks to a walk and a misplayed ground, another jam job, and this one behind the bag. Talley got him. Wilcox probably pitching better than the score would indicate. 4-0 in that man's 40th season. We'll talk with 11 right after this. Kyle Peterson joined by the man known by his number 11 and this Florida State program. Coach, this has been a crazy postseason run for you guys. What changed for Florida State once you got to the 2nd season?
Tom, I think there's a couple of things. Certainly the play of Tim Becker has had a lot to do with it, but I've seen guys step up as leaders, and that's something that well, I've talked to others about it, and it's just something that you can't teach. It just occurs, and I've seen some of our guys show great leadership, and I think that's been a big help to us.
Levin, you've faced 2 premium arms the last few days. Hancock yesterday and Wilcox today, but your offense just keeps on going. Why? Why have they been so good?
Well, it's Mike Jr. He gets down there and really works with the hitters and spends an awful lot of time on pitch recognition and not chasing in certain situations, and that credit goes to him.
Levin, I know you got a lot of baseball left in this team, in this program this year, but when this season finally comes to an end for you, what are you going to miss the most?
The relationships, Tom. It just, I mean, and I find myself talking to the freshman like Robbie in his last at-bat. I mean, yeah, this is my last year, but I'm going to be out there. I got my seat already picked out, and I'm going to be out there watching and yelling and screaming. I mean, that's where I went to school. Mom and I were married, went down there on our honeymoon. It's just something that's very special to me, and I want our guys to be comfortable in their environment.
I appreciate everything that you've done for the game. We all do. Thanks for your time.
Well, I'm just happy to be here. I'd been a heck of a play, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, it would have. You don't have to leave if you don't want to. It's up to you.
No, I would start yelling a little soon.
All right.
I better get back over here where I belong.
We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
A legend, a Hall of Famer in every book. And you won't find, as you can tell whenever we talk to him on the air, a more likable coach anywhere. You also won't find a coach in NCAA history in any sport that has more wins than that man does. So Connor Tate reaches after the ball was smothered but lost by Mendoza. It's an infield single. And now Tucker Maxwell is up for Georgia. He hit a leadoff home run for the Dogs yesterday. David Coburn is the Florida State athletic director. He's got a lot on his plate right now. He's got a balanced budget. He's got to find a baseball coach. Now, can you imagine? He says it's a process that they hope to wrap up in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Can you imagine whoever that is coming out to coach his first game, looking up, and 11 is sitting in the stands?
Just give him a little wave. Just hanging out over here watching a game. No, and I have to think for whoever gets the job, and Mike Martin Jr. is on the short list to potentially get it. You would like nothing more than to look up in the stands and see that face.
Florida State's president, John Thrasher, is also involved in the search. Grounder to the right side, to Cedas, to Salvatore, on to first, fired. And what a stop over at the bag by Carter Smith. Georgia's first hit is now erased thanks to the 4-6-3.
I'll give an assist to Carter Smith over at first base on this one too, because the flip is in a good spot for Salvatore. The throw's a little bit low. Smith digs it out of the dirt, erases the leadoff single. And Maxwell can really run. It's just hit hard. Smith digs it out to erase Connor Tate.
This is Riley King now, and King chops one down the third base line. Mendoza will let it go foul. They're still playing in Baton Rouge, bottom of the ninth. Southern Miss down 12-11, but 2 outs. Winner of that one gets LSU in a regional final tonight. The loser heads home. Riley King was walked his first time up, batting average just under 300. He's homered 8 times this season. He might be a little out of breath now. King is a first-year starter, a redshirt sophomore out of Collins Hill High School, Lawrenceville, Georgia. A half swing. And Florida State faces the minimum in the third thanks to the double play. Third of the way through this one. Seminoles up for Zip. Drama in Red Stick. Southern Miss's Gabe Montenegro just walked off Arizona State, ending the Sun Devil season. Southern Miss wins it 13-12. 9 o'clock Eastern scheduled first pitch for the Golden Eagles and the Tigers. And the box is going to be rocking tonight. Southern Miss scored 3 in the 8th, 4 in the 9th. The winner of that regional matches up with the winner of this regional. And Florida State needs just one victory in the next 2 games to punch their ticket. We've had this format in college baseball now for 20 seasons. This is the 21st. And Florida State has moved to the Super Regionals 16 of the 20 completed seasons. Well, Wilcox finds his strength, and Nando DeSatos.
And the consistency under Mike Martin is just, it's remarkable. 40 of the season. In the previous 39, they've won at least 40 games every year. They played in the postseason every year.
To his counterpart, Talley. 4 straight retired now by Wilcox. Keep you up to date with the scores here, but for more coverage of the Division I baseball regionals and interactive brackets, go online at ncaa.com. Did they just play My Little Pony for Carter Smith?
Yes.
Why do I know the My Little Pony song?
So here, I don't know. That's a separate discussion. Probably better had not here. But so the NCAA rules, you can't play walk-up music when you're at home, or walk-up music when you're at home. So our buddies up the hill have taken it upon themselves to play Georgia's walk-up songs when they come to the plate. Now we've switched that up in the last 2 games to where they're offering the opponents the same advantage. Just not the ones that they choose. $50 a day for the speakers. I got the number today. They informed me that they did have some donations that helped pay for it, and they're hoping that they can run them one more day.
Well, they got more than $50 worth of pizza today, that's for sure.
Yeah, they did. See if anybody's left.
Well, the walk-up songs haven't been the perfect tonic for Georgia pitching. Kind of like when John Smoltz used to come out to Dancing Queen. Smothering stop Talley from his backside. Got him! An absolutely beautiful play by L.J. Talley.
Off the bat, it looks like a single up the middle for Carter Smith. And L.J. Talley, a bit longer than most second basemen. He needed every inch of it right here. Full extension, lays out, and just enough time to get to his knees. A one-hopper over to first. Patrick Sullivan goes and gets it, and it looked like they just got Carter Smith.
Another look. Finish of the play.
That's well done.
Tim Becker again. They didn't give him anything to hit in the second inning. His font on the scouting report has gotten a lot larger as the days have gone by. Just low, 3-1. They're pitching around Tim Becker.
Walked both plate appearances today. Florida State has had at least one runner on base in every inning so far.
Peanut butter jelly time for Mike Salvatore. 1 for 2, singled and scored in the first. He's been part of the home run barrage here in Athens this weekend. 27 home runs hit in this regional. The next closest by regional is 15, both in Los Angeles and Lubbock.
So it is really flying.
It is really flying here. It's flying everywhere. There have been 199 home runs hit so far in this NCAA tournament. Well ahead of the pace from last year. Probably a couple of different factors leading into that. And some folks, at least the ones we've talked to here in Athens, think it could be the ball. New shipment of balls arrived for the postseason. They've tied a little bit tighter. Lack of offense doesn't seem to be the issue in Omaha anymore. At least it hasn't been the last couple of years.
I tell you what, we changed the baseball a few years ago. Went to the same baseball that they used in the minor leagues. That brought it back to equilibrium, TD Ameritrade. It's maybe pushed a little bit past that here this weekend.
They made another ball change in pro ball this year. The AAA leagues are now using the MLB baseball. There's a lot of differences between the big league ball and on down. Not to bore you with the details, but here's a detail. AAA home runs are up by 50% this year.
That's not a coincidence.
Three balls and a strike. Laces were changed in the college ball years ago, providing less drag. Three-one pitch. Ball four. Back-to-back walks from Wilcox. He's now walked 5. Already 1 home run hit today. Came off the bat of Reese Albert. He comes to the plate with 2 on here.
Westwood surprises me. That isn't the one I thought we'd see second on that list. Lubbock doesn't. Always flies down there this time of year. Doesn't Oxford too. Usually don't think that when you're in LA, but when Shea Langoliers hits 3 of his own in 1 ball game, that helps drive that one up. Langoliers yesterday 3 home runs, 11 RBIs for Baylor.
Here in this regional, 51 of the 84 runs scored have come via the home run. We also have only had 5 stolen base attempts.
Attempts?
Really? This is the new brand of baseball that you see in the big leagues every day. Zach Christofak is getting loose for Georgia. Bulldog starter Cole Wilcox with 5 walks. That is a season high.
Pitch count starting to get up there. Just over 50% strikes to balls at this point. Now facing a guy that's reached base twice and hit a 2-run home run.
Pounds it into the dirt, but foul. Home run, 2 words. No break in this lineup. After Albert, it's Mendoza. Top 5 home run hitter in the ACC. His uniform's now 2-tone after diving after that ball when we had 11 on. What do you got on the all gold?
All in on the all golds. Not quite as gold as we used to see. They've toned it down a little bit. Back in the Eduardo Perez days, you could see it from an interstate.
Becker at second, Salvatore at first. What do you got on Reese Albert's grip? Top hand over the bottom hand.
What we got?
Bottom hand over the knob.
Some guys do that. It's like a golf grip. The overlap.
And he spills that one up the middle. He'll get through. Tim Becker will score from second. Throw goes to third. Albert headed to second behind him. And Georgia's defensive mistakes continue. Seeing eye grounder from Reese Albert, drives in 1 and gives him an extra base on the hustle. It's now 5-0.
Seminoles the last 3 days offense is just relentless, and it just keeps coming at you. Now some of this is self-induced. 2 walks after 2 ground ball outs to start it. The first of those 2 walks, Tim Becker comes around to score on the single from Reese Albert, and then heads up base run and end up at second base, and it looks like that will end the day of the freshman Cole Wilcox.
Marshall out to buy some time for Christofak in the Georgia pen.
I think you got to go get him now. Christofak has not pitched yet this weekend. Your closer Aaron Shunk has not pitched yet this weekend, and this one's already starting to get away.
And here's Scott Strickland. Wilcox a season high five walks, excuse me. He'll end his night with only one strikeout. So we'll tell you about Christofak when we return. Florida State up 5-0, looking for a regional title on the road. So freshman Cole Wilcox is done after 74 pitches and a career high 5 walks over 3 2/3. A couple of Georgia's really good pitchers have struggled against Florida State. Emerson Hancock only lasted 4 innings.
And 2 different approaches for Florida State. A little bit more patient today. When it was in the zone, they went after it, but Wilcox just couldn't garner this stuff, which is big time stuff. Yesterday, they were very aggressive against Emerson Hancock. So different offensive approach for the Noles, but it's worked both nights. Now they hand the ball to Zach Christofak, who has been one of the most reliable guys out of the bullpen all year. When Aaron Shunk was on the shelf for a few weeks, it was Christofak that became the closer. 6 saves on the year for Christofak. Low 90s fastball, swing and miss slider. And you got to think for Georgia to have a chance, it has to be Christofak and Shunk that can each give you 6 to 9 outs and hold this Florida State offense down.
Christofak was a 37th round pick of the Braves coming out of high school in 2016. First pitch strike to Drew Mendoza. Christofak 5'9", 185 out of Walton High School. Got a little Billy Wagner in him.
Throws right-handed, doesn't bump 100, but yes, sure.
So now 1-2 to Mendoza. The Dogs hoping that Christofak can calm this thing down. They trail 5-0. Two and two. Then the question is, if he's effective, how long could he go? Season high in innings pitched is 3 2/3. It came 3 appearances ago against Auburn. According to the available stats, he's only thrown as many as 50 pitches in one game this season.
This is the advantage that Georgia has right now, though, is their main 2 bullpen guys haven't been out there. So you can stretch them as far as you feel comfortable, not worried about the workload leading into it. You just need Christofak to get him back in the dugout and that offense to go to work.
Tied him up with a fastball. And Mendoza retired. Christofak does his job out of the bullpen. But Georgia only has 1 hit. Regional finals are set in Fayetteville. The number 5 national seed Razorbacks will take on TCU at 9 o'clock tonight. Razorbacks only need to win one. They would come back and play again tomorrow. Same for number 12 seed Ole Miss. Jacksonville State has eliminated Clemson. It'll be the Gamecocks and Rebels at 9 Eastern. First pitch, high pop-up off the bat of Aaron Shunk. Drew Mendoza takes care of it. One down. And here's L.J. Talley. Florida State has a winning record in games played in Athens. They've won 21 of the 37 in a series that dates back to 1951. It includes a couple of other postseason head-to-heads in 2001 and 2006.
Changeup right there from Grady. He's walked just one. Excuse me, walked two, giving up just one hit so far. Going there. So 2-1. Matthew Nelson pushes all the way inside, trying to throw that two-seam fastball that a lot of left-handed hitters will give up on. Think it's off the plate, comes back over to steal the inside corner.
This one's ripped towards right field, but it's going to come down in the glove of Reese Albert. 2 down. We'll have Alex Bregman and the rest of the AL West leading Astros tomorrow night when they play the first game of their 4-game series against the Mariners at T-Mobile Park. 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific on ESPN and the ESPN app, so you can watch anywhere. Former Georgia star Gordon Beckham played with the Mariners last season. Sharply hit past the shift and threw it off the bat of John Cable. I was kind of hoping we'd have a Yankees promo so I could talk about 2-time World Series champion Claude Derrick, who played for Georgia in 1906.
But yet you figured out a way to get it in.
I've just decided I'm just going to kind of do whatever I want.
Interwoven perfectly. Now Cam Shepard with 2 outs, homered earlier today. Georgia just needs a little bit of thump right now. Sold out Foley Fields, pretty quiet.
By the way, Beckham was playing down the road in Atlanta today with Detroit. Dansby Swanson homered, had a big game. Braves got a win over Detroit.
Double-digit home runs heading into June. You see Gordon Beckham and the Tigers about a week and a half in Omaha. Tigers and the Royals the Thursday before the College World Series starts.
First ever major league game in Omaha.
Be nice of both organizations. Call up Casey Mize and Brady Singer and let them make their major league debuts against each other.
Well, the Royals might do it by then because all indications out of Kansas City is the fire sale is starting soon. Royals Whit Merrifield returning to a comfortable place for him. Not only did he spend AAA time there with Kansas City's farm club, but also a pair of national championships with South Carolina.
And the last to ever record a hit at Rosenblatt Stadium in college baseball. Merrifield's walk-off single down the right field line gave Ray Tanner his first national title.
to the left side. Mendoza off the bag, bobbled it, but recovered. His defense this weekend has been inspiring for a guy who also swings a good bat. We'll hear from Georgia's head dog, Scott Strickland, about what his team needs to do after this. Hand here in Athens, Tom Hart with Kyle Peterson. Please be joined by Georgia head coach Scott Strickland. Scott, Connor Grady has been effective against you guys today. What can you get done, and what do you need to do to put some hits together against him?
Well, we got to see that changeup up in the zone. He's throwing a lot of changeups, and then he's throwing that fastball in. It's 91-92 on your hands, and then he's throwing that changeup when he's behind in the count. So we just got to see that changeup up a little better.
Scott, Cole Wilcox out now. You go to your bullpen, but what did Wilcox struggle with the most today?
Commanding his fastball. We had to go to the slider and a changeup a whole bunch today. He just couldn't put the fastball where he wanted to put it. So threw too much off speed because it just couldn't locate the fastball.
Scott, thanks for your time. We appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, man.
Georgia head coach Scott Strickland in this Georgia program, a national seed for the second consecutive season. And the number 8 national seed last year. Lost a couple games to Duke to have their season end earlier than they thought it would. But the truth of the matter is, and we've seen it already this season, just because you have a national seed next to your name, that guarantees you nothing. In this tournament, especially this first wacky weekend, about half the national seeds advance.
2 of them are out already. Oregon State was the first to get eliminated. West Virginia got walked out by Texas A&M today.
Wasn't it 8 of the 16 made it onto the Supers last year?
Yes, 8 of the 16 went on.
Dribbler up the middle, and L.J. Talley in front of it. It was dropped on a low throw. Sullivan saved so many wide throws, and that one seemed to come out of his glove as he went to the ground.
I looked down. Started right to 4-3 in the scorebook just because Talley and Sullivan have been so sure-handed. Talley's got plenty of time. You can see that ball kind of crawled up on him, and he threw Patrick Sullivan a cutter. Sullivan, even with the left-handed glove on that side of it, a little bit easier to stretch to it, couldn't hold on to it. Florida State has a leadoff man on again. Leadoff man has been on for the Noles for the first 5 innings.
Sorry for stepping on you, but Sullivan's lucky he didn't get stepped on too.
Yeah, that was close.
Charged with his second error of the season. Tough error for the first baseman. Matt Nelson tips it off of Marshall's bat. Mike Martin was talking earlier this game about having conversations with his freshman players. Freshmen that will only play 1 season for him. He's doing that with Robbie Martin. His at bat in the 3rd. And we've seen over the course of this weekend that the freshman catcher Nelson has sidled up to the skipper. A sponge off of him and all that great knowledge over 40 years as the head coach at Florida State.
It was a great shot yesterday. Matthew Nelson just leaning in right next to Mike Martin. And those are the conversations that you'd love to hear. Just what he's telling him, what Mike sees during the course of the game. He's done it with some of the greats of this game. Buster Posey, our buddy Eduardo Perez, who went to Florida State thinking he was going to wear number 11, then realized pretty quick that he wasn't going to.
2 strikeouts now for Christopher. And here's J.C. Flowers. To short. Chance for 2. Talley makes a turn. That throw's on the money. And Georgia works around the error to put a leadoff man on again. First double play for the Dogs. Bottom 3rd of their orders coming up.
Well, the defense for Georgia's been so strong the whole year. Now they need the bats to go. Halfway home at Athens, Dogs trailing by 5.
Welcome back to the NCAA Baseball Regionals presented by Capital One. From Athens, Georgia, this is the Athens Regional. 64 teams start this tournament at 16 sites around the country. Winners from this double elimination round move on to a best-of-3 super regional site next week. 5-0 Florida State here. And that ball under the glove of Carter Smith. Patrick Sullivan with a leadoff single. Here's what the Starkville Regional looks like. Miami and Mississippi State will meet in the regional final. State needs just one win. And Stanford trying to catch up with Fresno State. Bulldogs need just one win to advance. Those two teams would match up. Those two sites, I should say, would match up in the Super Regionals.
Late night at the Dude tonight. 8 o'clock local start. Fresno got Stanford 7-2 yesterday.
Good thing they have condos there. By the way, Louisville leads Illinois State 5-1, bottom of the fourth, and some drama and controversy in Louisville today. Michael McElveen, the Louisville closer, was ejected in the 9th inning for a comment he made towards a home plate umpire after a controversial spot on one of his pitches. He didn't curse. He didn't scream. I think the two words he uttered were, "That's awful."
Yeah, that's horrible is what it looked like.
As a consequence, McElveen will be suspended for the next 4 games. It's an automatic suspension in the NCAA rulebook. We don't see many college baseball players ejected. I think there were 2 in the SEC all year long. But another thing we don't see is there is no appeal process available.
Yeah, and it seemed like a way quick hook on that, especially given the environment in the game and the emotion of the game. I mean, with that decision, you ultimately play a significant hand in deciding the future of the regional and then potentially Louisville in the super regional.
Rule 226E. Automatic 4-game suspension. Shane Marshall strikes out.
A slider right here from Connor Grady. Scott Strickland was talking about the changeup, and he has used the changeup significantly to both right-handers and left-handers. That one looked like the slider had just a little bit of tail away from Marshall. Just the second strikeout of the day for Grady.
Nine-hole hitter Connor Tate. Foul tip, and so Sullivan will go back to the bag. Florida State has only lost once when leading by a game by 5 runs or more this season. That was March 12th against Florida. They led 6-0. The final score was 20-7. Did you do that game?
Which one was it? Clemson?
20-7, Florida State.
Oh yeah, no, I did do that one. Yeah. The other thing about that, Florida State came into that game #1 in the country in fielding percentage. They were fielding above .990 coming into that game, and things have changed defensively for the Noles. They've just been able to hit their way out of it this weekend.
Beware 3 days before the Ides of March. Ball and 2 strikes now to Tate. Tap to the shortstop Salvatore. To DeSatis for 1. On to first. Second double play turn by Florida State. It's getting late already in Athens.
Connor Grady getting a lot of soft contact today. This time out in front of the changeup. Pull to the shortstop. Salvatore, DeSatis, Carter Smith. Inning over. 5-0 Florida State.
The first, 2 in the third, and 1 more in the fourth for Florida State, needing just a single win to move on to a super regional. Should Georgia come back and force a game 7, it would be tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock. But that's a long ways away now. Nander DeSatis fouls one off. DeSantis is 1 for 2. Souvenir time. When's the last time you wore suspenders? Talley can't get it. Rolls right under the glove, and then nearly the typically sure-handed Georgia defense has committed 3 errors already tonight.
And for Scott Strickland, if there's one worry, the worry generally is not defense with this club. For L.J. Talley right there, the head may come up just a little bit, expecting that ball to come up. Instead, it goes right underneath his glove, and now 5 of 6 innings. Florida State has had the leadoff man on, the last 2 because of an error.
The right side of the infield had a total combined number of 5 errors this season. They've been responsible for 2 tonight. Carter Smith homered last night against Georgia. He's 0 for 2 tonight. Quick turnaround for Dallas Baptist. They knocked off Florida this afternoon. Now back on the field taking on Texas Tech. Red Raiders have become regulars in Omaha. That regional would match up with the winner from the Oklahoma City regional.
Texas Tech and Omaha 3 of the last 5 years. Really tough to beat at home in Lubbock. In a 2-0 spot, Dallas Baptist would have to beat the Red Raiders twice. Oklahoma State is 2-0 in that Oklahoma City region.
Pitch blocked by Shane Marshall. Through the hole on the right side. DeSantis will stop at second. Florida State in business. Mike Martin's business is coaching baseball. Earlier this year, his former player Eduardo Perez asked him what he thought his legacy would be.
Coach, how do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered as a guy that did it the right way. He was competitive. He never put anything before the players. The players are his main objective. I said I would know when it's time. I know 40 years is enough. The next guy that comes in, I think he'll be pleased with me because I left him a good schedule.
40 years. Two on for Tim Becker, the folk hero. The question around Tallahassee is who's more of a legend in terms of what they've accomplished in a game or two? Marshall McDougal's day against Maryland was certainly historical, but that was a random game in May. All of Tim Becker's shots this weekend have meant something. Kind of like P.J. Savoy's three-pointer to beat #1 seed Xavier to send the Seminoles to the Sweet 16 in 2018. That would be a great debate in FSU baseball history. Which was better, Marshall McDougal's big day against Maryland or Tim Becker's weekend in Athens?
Well, that run's not over quite yet for Becker. Think about this, okay? If this is Becker's first at bat, game 1 of this region, and there's guys on first and second with nobody out, he's probably bunting.
It's a great point.
Instead now you got a 5-0 cushion, but instead now Mike Martin Jr., who went in and talked to him briefly before this at bat started, turns in blues. Now Becker in an 0-2 hole.
After that big first game, we're joking with 11 the next day, and he said, well, that's just great coaching.
Becker has reached base 8 of 11 times that he's come to the plate so far in this regional.
In just his 6th start of the season. When he homered in the 3rd inning yesterday, he rounded second and pointed to the stands above the Florida State dugout. He was pointing at his dad. Made the trip over to watch him play. And one of his former teammates on the Florida State club team came over from Atlanta. Heads up. Meat ended up with the baseball after it ricocheted off the railing.
That got a few of the Seminoles to stand in a different place right now. Talking to Mike Martin Jr. on a batting cage today about Tim Becker, and he started shaking his head. He goes, I don't know if he's hit 3 home runs in batting practice the entire season. Yet he's hit 3 this weekend.
And Becker goes down looking. 3rd strikeout for Zach Christopher.
Zach Christopher, who has had to pitch around some traffic that isn't really his fault the first 2 innings that he's been out there to start. Error to start this one, then a single. Gets in a 2-strike count and just sticks a 2-seam fastball on the outside part of the plate. Gets Becker looking for the first out here in the 6th.
Back at the top of the order, Mike Salvatore. You know you've been on a tournament site for a while when the fans that you've been showing on TV throughout the weekend come to the booth to say hi. But I noticed that the Dippin' Dots dudes didn't bring us any Dippin' Dots.
Oh, yeah, they did.
Oh, they did.
Come on, man.
This one's lifted to left center field. Long run. And that's past the reach of Maxwell. Carousel spinning for FSU. DeSeta scores. Carter Smith coming home. The throw is high. And Florida State gets a 2-run double for Mike Salvatore to go up by a touchdown in the 6th.
Tell you what, now there's a lot of talk about Drew Mendoza in the draft, and rightfully so, because it's a different kind of offensive talent than you usually see. But Mike Salvatore's kind of been the glue of this team this year. Started at second base. He's a senior. Last year he was the shortstop. A third of the way into the season goes back to short. But he's hit the whole year. It's an OPS close to 1,000. Singled, scored in the 1st. Now a 2-run double in the 6th. And Florida State starting to smell supers right now.
Looking for their 17th Super Regional appearance in 21 seasons. Reese Albert homered in the 1st to get things going for Florida State. Albert homered in the first, walked and scored in the third, drove in a run with a single in the fourth.
The difference offensively in these two teams today. Florida State has played their type of offensive game. They walked 5 times, 7 runs on the board, hits up and down the lineup. Georgia hasn't had a base runner to second base yet. It has really been all Florida State in this one, just as it was yesterday.
The scouting report coming in is that Scott Strickland's team had the pitching depth to advance out of Athens. Christopher takes care of Albert.
And I think they did. And who knows, still may. Offense can come alive here before this one's done. But if there was one team, maybe in this tournament, that you would point at first to say they have the arms to get through the losers bracket, it was Georgia. Looked that way earlier today. Tim Elliott went a complete game, less than 100 pitches, and was masterful. Faced one over the minimum. The freshman Cole Wilcox today just couldn't find control of that fastball, and Florida State made him pay.
Christopher misses with the fastball. 1-0 to Drew Mendoza. Top 3 hitters for Florida State. Salvatore, Albert, Mendoza have combined to go 5 for 9 with a home run, a couple of doubles. And you can add to their tally. Mendoza yanks it through the right side. Salvatore will score. And it's a run-scoring double off the bat of Drew Mendoza.
Just keeps on coming. Georgia in the shift. Mendoza's second hit of the game. This one just kind of hangs up in the zone. It looked like a little slider that's coming right back in towards the barrel of Mendoza. No, it was a fastball. Fastball they're trying to go away. Instead, it's elevated. Maybe outer third, but Mendoza, plenty of length to get to that one. 3 more runs now in the 6th for Florida State. I know it's a little early. But we can start to look ahead a little bit. LSU won the first 2 games. If LSU wins and Florida State wins, Florida State in Baton Rouge, Mike Martin and Paul Maneri. Might be loud though.
Might be a little bit.
And you got to think, and I know he hasn't outwardly come out and said it a whole lot, that there's some different thoughts going through Mike Martin's mind this weekend than there ever have before. And you know that there were on Selection Monday this year.
That one kicks away from Marshall, and a wild pitch will put Mendoza at third. Florida State, one of the last 4 teams to make it in the tournament. They came in here as the 3 seed in the Athens Regional. Mike Martin, about midway through conference play, when they had an RPI in the upper 50s and they were out instead of in. He said simply, we just need for a couple of good things to happen. Get a couple guys hot. Well, now their whole lineup is hot.
If a couple is 9, that is now happening. And there was a giant exhale from Mike Martin after they heard their name called. In the tournament all 40 years that he's been in Tallahassee, but never before have they been a 3 seed.
So think about the changes that FSU made over the course of the season to try to get things right. His first base coach, Tyler Holt, didn't make a play on it.
Tyler Holt's a big leaguer. I don't know if he even looked at him either.
Oh, he looked at him. Up the middle, and a base hit for Martin. When that foul ball went by Tyler Holt at first base, he held up his hands and tapped his chest as if to say, my bad. The Florida State fans were ragging him. And then his coach clowned him.
Well, that may be the only mistake that Florida State's made today.
So the changes Florida State made over the course of the season. They flipped the middle infield. And that seemed to be okay, but it's not like it solved all their issues.
No.
And then they got to Durham. They decided to bench the left fielder and give Tim Becker a shot. And that's certainly been impactful here this weekend. But the way the entire lineup is producing, you go back to believing Mike Martin when he says, it's going to come together. We just need for a couple of good things to happen. Intimating, we're not going to blow this thing up. We're going to tear it down. It's not Major League Baseball. There is no trade deadline.
Our guys are our guys. You can mix and match and move a few pieces around, which they have. And the reality is Florida State's not going to be a great defensive team. It just, with those guys, they've turned a few double plays tonight, but there are some defensive limitations. But if you swing the bat like this, that covers up a lot of defensive inefficiency, that's for sure, and they have pitched it really well here.
Two of their starters have over 100 strikeouts on this season. Their starting pitchers, I should say. So they certainly have that part. They've got a closer in J.C. Flowers.
We hadn't even thrown this weekend.
And if they do go to Baton Rouge, they'll match up with a good but imperfect LSU team. And like the Seminoles, it seems the Tigers have gotten hot late. They had a nice run through the SEC tournament. Florida State and LSU have met 6 times in the NCAA tournament. 5 of those meetings have come in Omaha. The only other time was in a 1975 regional in Starkville, Mississippi. Florida State won 4-2. Nelson strikes out to end the inning, but it's another inning of success and laughs and fun for Florida State. Their retiring head coach, the Hall of Famer, shows that he can be serious and still have fun. Needing just a win tonight to win the regional and advance to next weekend. Campbell just walked off Quinnipiac. That's in the Greenville Regional, and the Campbell Camels are in the driver's seat. They'll meet the regional final with the winner out of East Carolina and Quinnipiac tomorrow, or tonight, I should say. Their first regional final is tomorrow at 1. This ball's blasted towards the hill. Headed for the kudzu, and it is over the back fence and into the backyard. Tucker Maxwell unloads.
Scott Strickland talked just a few innings ago about how good the changeup for Connor Grady had been today. Tucker Maxwell was waiting on it this time. First pitch changeup. It is right down the middle and right into that swing path. Now back-to-back games where Maxwell has gone deep. There are no doubters, and then there's one that goes over a few fences. And for Maxwell, this one clears the second fence, gets the dogs on the board. That's a first base runner that Georgia's had past first base.
Souvenir for your buddies. Might need to get the weed whacker out.
He might have a poison ivy souvenir tomorrow morning too, but got a baseball.
The dog found one too. That one's been around for a while.
Mm-hmm. That dog doesn't want the new one either. Give me mine back.
Hold on, let's take the leash off. You can run wherever you want. So Maxwell spoils a shutout. Riley King will try to keep it moving for Georgia. And this little dribbler, tough play for Smith. But Grady gets to the bag. One down. Mentioned Campbell a moment ago. Party in Bowie's Creek. First time that Campbell has won multiple games in the same NCAA tournament. And we've had 5 walk-off winners in this year's tournament. 3 today. Texas A&M with a walk-off grand slam.
Campbell's are 2-0.
Southern Miss walked off Arizona State, and then Campbell. The 0-1 to Aaron Shunk. Just off the plate inside. Mike Martin went and had a visit with Connor Grady in the Florida State infield a moment ago. Wanting to make sure this one doesn't get out of control and give any momentum to Georgia. Again, Shunk underneath it. Second pop-up in his last 2 trips. 2 out for LJ Talley.
Georgia just has not had a solution but for Tucker Maxwell for the changeup tonight from Connor Grady. He has leaned on it.
One hopper, scoots off the glove of Carter Smith and down the right field line. Talley looking for 2. He'll go in standing up. Vandy and Indiana State meeting in the Nashville Regional Final. Meanwhile, Duke is in the driver's seat facing that red-hot Texas A&M team. Duke has a 3-0 lead, bottom of the first against the Aggies. Here's John Cable. By the way, Creighton and Michigan out west tonight.
Yeah, Creighton lost their opener, then eliminated defending national champs Oregon State, knocked Cincinnati out earlier today.
Change up again, 0-2.
Reminds you of the outing that Tim Elliott had today for Georgia, to where it just looked so comfortable out there on the mound. Connor Grady has looked comfortable on the mound from the first pitch of this game.
LMU in the driver's seat against UCLA. It's only the 10th NCAA appearance for LMU. They went to Omaha back in 1986. No super regionals then, and so LMU looking for their first super regional appearance, need to just take 1 from the Bruins.
Bruins had to slug a little bit against Baylor today. Kind of punch, counter punch. UCLA ended up beating Baylor, scored double-digit runs. Now they get a familiar foe in Loyola Marymount. Another strikeout for Connie Grady, and another time on the changeup. Not a lot of punch-outs tonight, just 3, but that one ends the 6th. Dogs are on the board, but a long way to go. It's 9-1 Florida State.
Well, it's been a family affair in Tallahassee. Mike Martin on the left and his son, simply known by Meat, on the right. And a very special trip when Meat was wearing the Florida State uniform as a player, and they ended up in Omaha.
Have you ever stepped out any moment as a coach and just seen it from a different perspective?
I would have to say the only time that happened was in Omaha. We were playing our first game, and I'm looking up into the stands, and I'm thinking, what would it be like just for a little while of being a daddy? And then I said, dadgummit, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be a daddy. Mike was the hitter. First pitch was a ball. And everybody else is enjoying their moment with their son. By George, I'm going to enjoy it with mine. Next pitch, he roped back up the middle for a base hit. For that one at-bat, I was a daddy. I'll never forget it.
And they could have a very special Father's Day should Florida State return to Omaha in this 11's last year.
Mike Martin Jr. has been at his side for over 20 years now. An assistant coach. Really much of the offense defers to Meat. Imagine that setting. Year where you're one of the last 4 in. Florida State can figure out a way to get back to Omaha. It's not unheard of either now. Oregon State, the second year when they won back-to-back national titles, was one of the last teams that was selected into the field. Fresno State won it as a 4 seed. 22 years as an assistant coach after a great playing career there.
J.C. Flowers cut down on strikes by the new Georgia pitcher Justin Glover. Glover replaced Zach Christofac. And Andrew DeSatos coming to the plate. Is this Mike Martin magic that we're seeing this weekend? Or is that too Disneyfied?
No, I don't know what Disneyfied means, but I do know that it's not out of the equation. I'll tell you what I didn't think was going to happen. I didn't think Florida State would roll in here and lose the first 2 games. And you don't know what happens from here on out, and Lord knows we're not home yet tonight. But you just felt like there may be one more run in it. He's just one too many.
Ball and 2 strikes to Nander DeSatos, who is 1 for 3.
Sadas, a pretty good 2 offensive days too. 3 hits yesterday. Singled here, reached on an error in the 6th, but came around to score.
Dumps this one into right field. And DeSatos has another 2-hit game. Lefty Justin Glover, junior from Buford, Georgia. 26th round pick of the Rays in 2016, coming out of Buford High School. Back-to-back lefties here with Smith and Becker. And then the lineup will turn over for Salvatore. That shot we had of 11, turning his hat sideways, clowning on his first base coach. Yeah. You know where I bet that shows up tonight? On SVP.
Now, SVP would love him some 11. That'd be a pretty good conversation there.
Little dribbler to the right side. Talley takes care of Carter Smith. Speaking of SVP.
I still don't know whether Tyler Hope made eye contact with him. I can guarantee you heard about it when he got back into the dugout. Hope, former Seminole, ended up making his way to the big leagues. Now the volunteer assistant coach here at Florida State. He could play too. He could really run.
Tim Becker's been front page news in Tallahassee the last couple of days. Can Florida State finish this thing off? There'll be a throng of reporters waiting for him at their next media availability. In the air to left. And Becker retired. Time to stretch in Athens. Looks like the Athens Regional is going FSU's way unless Georgia finds some hits.
AA Baseball Regionals is presented by Capital One. What's in your wallet? And in part by Twix. It's time to decide.
Twilight in the Classic City, Athens, Georgia. And after Sunday Night Baseball tonight, don't miss Sports Center with Scott Van Pelt. Post-game reactions from Warriors-Raptors Game 2, plus inside the Sox-Yanks series. And how Tim Hardaway, Mitch Richmond, and Chris Mullin changed the NBA 30 years ago. Sports Center. After Red Sox-Yankees on ESPN and the ESPN app. What was that last one about? Is it about NBA jams? You know how many quarters I pumped into NBA jams?
Yeah, well, I was right there with you. I was right there with you. That and Galaga. They put them side by side, I'd go broke.
Leadoff single for Cam Shepard. Coming into this inning, Conor Grady has delivered 19 of 23 first pitch strikes.
You would think that may get the Seminole bullpen moving around a little bit right now. I mean, you're starting to count outs. And if you're Georgia, I think you got to get something crooked on the board here in the seventh. J.C. Flowers has been so good as the closer for Florida State. Nobody throwing yet. Chase Haney's starting to loosen up a little bit, at least get the legs going.
So Georgia comeback is unlikely. They haven't had a comeback like this all year. So at what point do you use Flowers just for the sake of using him?
Not till the ninth. I think at that point you try to get yourself there. I mean, if the game gets a lot closer before then obviously he could finish the ball game right now. J.C. Flowers has the ability to go get you 9 outs if you need him to, but obviously they're going to try to get this one a little bit closer until and if they go to Flowers to finish it off. This ballpark's going to change here real quickly from a volume standpoint, though. If Georgia can get this thing within 5, 6, then you start to feel like, okay, we really got a shot.
2-1 to Sullivan. Ninety pitches now for Grady, and behind in the count. In the air, deep left field. Becker, shy of the track, hauls it in. One down, and Georgia will use a pinch hitter for Marshall. Not much help from Mother Nature. .91 pitches, the most thrown by Conor Grady at any point this season. His previous high was 88. That was April 9th against Florida. pounded foul. Chase Haney has begun to get loose. Georgia didn't take batting practice before this game, their second game of the day, but Florida State did. They had plenty of time on the field. You see how many managers Florida State has with them?
They don't travel light.
They had like 5 dudes, 5-6 guys hitting fungos before BP.
May have been some pitchers mixed in too.
There was a couple for sure.
They don't travel light. They got 13 different uniforms. You could have somebody that brings all those.
North Carolina leads Tennessee 4-2, bottom of the 5th in the Chapel Hill Regional. Volunteers had to hold on for dear life in their first game today. Coughed up a lead and got it back and won it in the 10th.
That one knocked out Liberty.
Liberty. Gamecocks eliminated Clemson, but the Jacksonville State Gamecocks.
It's wins number 1 and 2 during this postseason for Jacksonville State. NCAA history. Little soft liner up the middle.
Took the glove off of Carter Smith. I mean, he's had an adventure over there.
Mike Salvatore, the shortstop, makes a play up the middle, then immediately lets it go to first, and Carter Smith kind of got caught behind the base runner. Cam Shepard off, coming all the way back, and then the throw is on the home plate side of first base. There's just no way for Carter Smith to get there. Hits the netting in front of George's dugout, so base runner can't advance anywhere. Shepard's still at first here with 2 outs.
Georgia 0 for 10 with runners on base tonight. Low and away to Connor Tate.
.99 pitches for Connor Grady. Worked ahead the entire night. Georgia offensive with double-digit runs against everybody but Florida State in this region.
Breaking ball hit well to left, but right at the left fielder Tim Becker. No runs after a leadoff single, 1 stranded. Georgia only has 1 run today. It came from Tucker Maxwell. We're through with 7. .11 looking at the clipboard, trying to figure out what's next for this team. And with 6 more outs, what's next is another super regional. Mike Salvatore in the leadoff spot for Florida State is 2 for 3. Salvatore singled in the first inning. A batter later, Reese Albert, would put Florida State up front 2-zip with a home run And the Seminoles haven't looked back. 2 more in the 3rd, 1 in the 4th, and a 4-run 6th. We'll have Alex Bregman and the rest of the AL West leading Astros tomorrow night. It's when they play their first game of their 4-game series against the Mariners at T-Mobile Park. 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific on ESPN in the ESPN app, so you can watch anywhere.
Regs in Omaha just a few years ago. Take him long to go on and get himself a $100 million contract when he got to the big leagues.
Seems to be common for the LSU guys. Talley takes care of Albert. And they've got their center fielder now getting loose. J.C. Flowers up in the pen to pitch the 9th.
Their center fielder has pretty good stuff. J.C. Flowers, low 90s fastball, can get up 93, 94, but a real slider. This may be the answer as to how long J.C. Flowers is going to go. Flowers due up, well, now 4th in this inning. But at least got the arm going a little bit there.
Handshakes and hugs for Connor Grady. If you're in the mood for college baseball, more of it after this one. On ESPNU, it'll be TCU and Arkansas in the Fayetteville Regional. And over on the SEC Network, we'll take you to Starkville, Mississippi State matching up with Miami. And depending how things play out throughout the country, plenty more baseball tomorrow. We know the ECU Regional is going to head to tomorrow. They'll play their first regional final at 1 o'clock. NC State was sent packing by the Pirates earlier today. In on Mendoza, gets to the backstop. An extra 90 for Salvatore. Infield in for Georgia, down by 8 in the 8th. Three no. So should LSU advance, that regional, by the way, would be in Baton Rouge with Florida State staying on the road. Who has the advantage in that series? It's best of 3.
If LSU's at home. I mean, I still think it's LSU just because they're at home. But it's, if you're Florida State, you're not sure if you're going to get in the tournament. You get in one of the last 4 in. Then you come in on the road against the top 8 national seed, and at least at this point have steamrolled through this regional. There can't have been a time during the course of the season where Florida State's confidence is higher than it is right now. So I don't know that you care who you play.
Well, the other part of
that you are playing.
There's a lot of similarities between the two because the LSU coaches have been trying to get their kids all season long to gain that confidence, to have the LSU swagger. And maybe it's a chicken or the egg conversation. Success before swagger or vice versa. But if that's the matchup, then they'll both have it. Loads of it.
Yep, agreed. For LSU, it looks like they'll go freshman to start a super if the Tigers can get through to it. From a pure experience standpoint on the mound, it does tilt towards Florida State from a starting standpoint.
Five times these programs, Florida State and LSU, have met in the postseason. 4 of those in Omaha, including a couple of seasons ago in midweek. Ball and a strike to Robbie Martin. Nutmeg State on a run. UConn leads Oklahoma State 3-2 in the top of the 7th in Stillwater.
Got one to force a Game 7 in Stillwater.
Central Connecticut State having a nice run in the postseason too. 1-2 pitch is in the dirt and gathered by Mason Meadows, who entered defensively this half inning. So this would be the second straight season that Georgia has entered with a national seed, but hasn't made it out of its own regional. Heartbreak last year against Duke, and a program and a roster that's been through so much in terms of building and growing over the years.
Not least offensively, this ball hit well.
Connor Tate, catch made. Salvatore tagging from third. Sac fly for Robbie Martin. 10-1.
At least offensively, this Georgia lineup's going to look a little bit different next year. Tucker Maxwell should be a pretty decent draft. Aaron Shunk is absolutely going to be a good draft. LJ Tallick's a senior. John Cable's a senior. Cam Shepard's going to be a good draft. So you got to think that aside from the seniors, most if not all of those juniors may be on the Pro Bowl after this. They'll be good on the mound. I mean, you get Hancock back, Cole Wilcox back. That's a pretty good place to start.
UCLA had a pretty good pitching tandem a couple years ago. Garrett Cole and Trevor Bauer.
I got him to Omaha.
They also went really high in the draft. Georgia could have. I'm just spitballing on the second one here. We know how high Hancock is likely to go if he continues his path, but you're looking at maybe 2 top 10 picks, top 15 picks in the rotation next year.
Yeah, without a doubt. And Cole Wilcox, I believe, is a draft eligible sophomore next year.
Correct.
Hey, you look at some that have had multiple first rounders in a pitching staff recently.
Not have to go too far back. Those great Rice teams that had 3 first rounders.
Vanderbilt had Walker Buehler, Carson Fulmer a few years ago. Brady Singer, Jackson Kowar a few years ago for Florida.
Breaking ball fouled back to the screen by Nelson. Wind has picked up a little bit, and it's shifted now right to left. 2-2 to Nelson.
Florida State, you want Nelson to reach for a few reasons. One, keeps the inning going, but 2, it gets J.C. Flowers to the plate this inning. Because if Nelson is retired here and you want to use J.C. Flowers, he would be due to lead off the 9th after that. It would be tough to get him fully heated up and ready.
To third, Shunk. Retires Nelson. 10-1. Florida State with the lead. Flowers was on deck. He'll go out to center, it seems. Well, the wins keep coming for head coach Mike Martin. He climbed from 1,400 to 1,500. All the way north of 2,000. You know, it's a big deal. Like, hey, we're going to do a presentation. You've won 1,400 games. Well, that's cool, but I'm going to win at least 600 more, so we might want to space it out. Winning as coach in NCAA history, no matter the support.
Just make sure that you save some invites, because there's going to be a few more. 2,025 wins from Mike Martin. 39 straight years of winning 40 games or more. This is 40th. A win today would get Florida State to 39 wins. If they win today and they get to 41, that means he's going back to Omaha again.
Of all those wins, there certainly is something missing, and that's a national championship. What has kept Mike Martin and Florida State from a national title?
I think so much of winning a national title is some baseball luck over 2 weeks in Omaha, too. I mean, they've had their share of it to help them get there, and they've had their share of the other side to send the Seminoles home over the years in Omaha. It's talked about plenty, especially when Florida State shows up. It's one of the first questions that Mike Martin has to answer every year. Is this the year? Why hasn't it happened? The consistency of getting them there, though, is as good of about anybody ever. And Salvatore, is he going to steal one here? No, he's not. Tucker Maxwell down the line. That's a leadoff single here in the 8th. Well, the move of Salvatore from second to short was just to give him a little bit more consistency up the middle. Nander DeSatis has more range. Salvatore just a little bit more sure with the glove. Got to that one. Just couldn't make the transfer quite in time to get Maxwell, who can really run. Surprised they're holding him on.
Down 9. Nobody out in the 8th. Big hole on the right side. And this has been death by 1,000 cuts for Georgia. Another pop-up. 1 down. Connor Grady turned in 7 strong innings, only allowed 1 run on 6 hits. Hands the ball off to the 6'6" Chase Haney. 2-2 with a 2.93. 28th appearance for Haney, and then I assume we'll see Flowers to pitch the 9th, if nothing else, just to get some work in. 32 strikeouts against only 9 walks on the season. Haven't been a whole lot of high leverage innings, especially for the bullpens in this regional. Every winning team in this regional has scored 10 runs or more. Winning totals of 13, 13, 10, 12, 13, and at least 10 today. Tap to the right side. DeSatis, great range. And they take care of Shunk, 2 down. So now if you're Georgia and Aaron Shunk, you start thinking about your legacy and the last at bats for some guys in this Georgia uniform, either by class or by draft. MLB draft is tomorrow night.
LJ Talley is senior, up now with 2 outs. He will be a really good senior signing. I think LJ Talley's got a chance to play the game for a while longer.
Captain of his team, second team All SEC. To the shortstop, Mike Salvatore. We go to the 9th with Florida State firmly in control. 11's team's got 10 runs and they lead by 9. What a game for Reese Albert. He got the ball rolling for Florida State with this shot opposite field off of Cole Wilcox. A stop on the plate, 2-run lead. Really all Florida State needed. He's our Capital One player of the game.
Yeah, and that took the air out of this place right away. Another sellout crowd at Foley Field. They were just waiting for something to cheer about. They had plenty to cheer about earlier today when Georgia knocked out FAU. But tonight, just as it was yesterday, it's been all Florida State. Reese Albert got everything started. Leadoff single for Salvatore in the first, and Albert hit it in the parking lot.
The home run for Albert, the only one of the day for Florida State, but the top third of the lineup has been mashing. Everybody on a winning team seemingly has been mashing this week. 28 home runs in the 6 games here in Athens. That's ruled a fair ball. Shunk has a long throw and a strong arm.
Just because the situation hasn't dictated it. Aaron Shunk hasn't thrown this weekend. Closer all year for Georgia, and you can see why right there. It goes deep into the hole. Backside throws finally made from foul territory, but plenty to get on that. Get J.C. Flowers for the first out here in the ninth.
Ryan Webb is on the mound for Georgia. If Georgia loses, this will be the 11th straight year that at least one of the top 8 national seeds was eliminated in the regional round. So while Scott Strickland might feel pretty lonely over there in the Georgia dugout, fact is, with this tournament, it's really hard for the favorites to do what's expected of them. We've only had one #1 overall seed win the whole thing.
It was 20 years ago.
Little consolation to this squad. 46 wins this year for Georgia. Uh-oh. Where'd that get to Satis?
I think it caught some of that elbow pad, but also got some of the arm on the way by. The way that ricocheted, that had to catch some of the pad.
So J.C. Flowers back in the pen, weighted ball off to the side, and time to get loose. UConn just added a 2-run home run against Oklahoma State. It's now 5-2 Huskies. Anthony Prado with a home run. 0-2 to Carter Smith. That game's in the bottom of the 7th in Oklahoma City. UConn hasn't lost this season when leading after 7 innings. They're in good position. Punch out as it bends in on Carter Smith. Ryan Webb struggled last night for Georgia, finding his groove here tonight. Breaking ball behind Tim Becker. Becker 0 for 2 today. Top of the 8th, and Louisville Cardinals lead Illinois State 7-1. Louisville trying to force a game 7.
Georgia Tech and Auburn's been in a weather delay for a while. Saw that the first time. I was a little bit worried. That stayed 100 miles away for now. The Cardinals, Louisville's not used to losing at home in the postseason. Illinois State beat them yesterday. Louisville had to win earlier today, then beat Illinois State twice to get through that regional. J.C. Flowers is down there. It looks like we will see him in the ninth.
Last chance for Georgia. Their season hangs in the balance. It would be their biggest comeback of the year. Down 9 in the ninth, and they'll have to face Florida State's closer, J.C. Flowers. Classic City, Athens, Georgia, and a classic Florida State postseason run, maybe just beginning here in the regional round. Seminoles have slugged their way through this regional. They have a 10-1 lead in the ninth. And they will hand the ball off to their closer, J.C. Flowers, a junior from Orange Park, Florida, on the mound for the first time this weekend.
Who's been dominant this year, J.C. Flowers. 11 saves with a 1.59 ERA. Opponents hitting below 200, 195 against Flowers this year.
First pitch breaking ball swung on and missed by John Cable. Flowers didn't throw his first 2 seasons in the Florida State program. That one up the middle, picked up by Salvatore. And the Seminoles 2 outs from advancing.
That's kind of night it is right there for Georgia. Cable hits it right on the button up the middle. Salvatore was pressed up the middle. One hopper to him. Quick out to start the ninth there for J.C. Flowers.
Cam Shepard. Junior shortstop 1 for 3 tonight. Now 1-2.
Slider from J.C. Flowers right there is real, and that is the reason, even though he's had a very good season out in center field, already homered in this regional, that he's going to be drafted early. He's going to be drafted on the mound.
Chopper again. Salvatore again. 2 down. More baseball to follow, by the way, on ESPNU. TCU and Arkansas, their game 6, and over in the SEC network, Mississippi State will try to win their regional against Miami. Florida State's next game will be next week. It'll be their 17th Super Regional, most of any other program. Patrick Sullivan, last chance for Georgia.
Just get out there and
back
play.
to the breaking ball, and the count 1-1. Down the line, but foul. Remember when we were in Tallahassee for the Clemson Regional? It didn't look like there was a whole lot of confidence around this Florida State program.
For that Clemson game this year?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I said regional.
And that's when it started.
Yeah.
That's when it started, was that weekend. When they swept Clemson, Clemson came in. Remember, at that time, people were talking about Clemson potentially hosting. Florida State had an RPI that was above 100 going into that weekend. They swept Clemson, did it in convincing fashion. And even though they snuck their way into the NCAA tournament, it looks like they will be the first to advance on to a Super.
Sullivan swings and misses. Flowers finishes it off, and Florida State going back to Super Regional. The final ride is extended for 11. Florida State will take on the winner of the Baton Rouge Regional. LSU's in the driver's seat in Red Stick. But for the second consecutive season, disappointment for Georgia. Their season ends at home.
For Mike Martin just 6 days ago, there was a big exhale when he heard Florida State's name mentioned on the selection show on Memorial Day. Probably another big exhale now because Florida State's still playing. They'll see who wins that LSU regional, but in all likelihood, Florida State will go to LSU with a trip to Omaha on the line.
Hugs for 11, the Hall of Famer in his final go-round. Florida State has advanced. They await the winner of LSU and Southern Miss. And to get a true feeling for Mike Martin's competitiveness and how long he wants this run to go, we take you back 20 years ago to Omaha, and Mike Martin's season continues.